day in Las Vegas, but we continue to roll on here at Circa Resort and Casino at 2024 Mountain West Media Days, and we are very pleased now to welcome in an old friend of the Mountain West, Bronco Mendenhall, the head coach now of the New Mexico Lobos, Jesse Kurtz, Bridget Howard, and the head coach of the Lobos, Bronco Mendenhall. Bronco, it is wonderful having you back. You were a part of this league when we started this thing back in 1999. Ironically, as an assistant at New Mexico. Of course, you were a head coach in this league as well at BYU. Kind of a trip down memory lane for you a little bit?
It is. I was talking to my wife, Holly, in between different interviews today, and it was just like, I'm not quite sure how to make sense of the feelings, because it feels like I'm coming back, but in a new role, which is now different, and the league has changed, and so it's great. I'm really enjoying it.
Well, you were always one of the great molders of minds and raised outstanding young men on the football field, so we're thrilled to have you doing that once again here on behalf of the league in New Mexico. You took a step back for a short time after leaving your head coaching job at the University of Virginia. In what ways did that give you some perspective? What did you learn about yourself, and how did that pave the way to getting back into coaching? Really
good question, and still kind of working to wrestle to define the answers, but my wife and I had been a head coach, and I say my wife and I because that's what
she is the head coach.
Oh my gosh. So we'd been a head coach for 17 years, 11 at BYU, 6 at the University of Virginia. At our last year at Virginia, we became empty nesters, and really didn't talk about it much, but I felt, man, is this really what we're supposed to do the next chapter of our lives? And so paused, built a home in Montana, a ranch in Montana. But gosh, the number of texts and phone messages from former players over a 2-year period, and the cumulative effect of that, where only one of those texts for 2 years mentioned a game, score, or a season. Every other message was about a moment of advice or counsel, and the sample size was so big, and my wife and I we didn't start paying attention, but the number became so significant. It became compelling to us that we are supposed to influence and impact young people, and what we love is the world of college football. And so the chance to redo it again or do it again was important, but also at a place that we could make a difference. And I think we all crave being wanted and needed. And when there's programs that possibly have struggled or been in a spot that's difficult, and the addition of that component with the development of young people resonated with us as to, living a life of significance for this next chapter.
And in a place where you're comfortable, you're no stranger to it, what better place to get back than to Albuquerque and to be able to make an impression on these young men and these players and this program that's itching to get back to success. What was it? What was that moment like when you were finally able to call yourself the head coach at the University of New Mexico?
Man, surreal, I would say, and I think the community as well as the players, you use the word itching. I would go deeper than that. I think almost desperate, right? I think the community of Albuquerque and the University of New Mexico, not only hopeful but desperate for results in football, right? Desperate for a quality program that has success, desperate for a place to go where people can count on a team playing well and having great outcomes, but not at the expense of developing great people. And so I think itching is close, but being able to then call myself the head coach against that backdrop there's a huge opportunity, but also a huge responsibility that I feel.
Absolutely.
You have what I understand are what is called guiding principles for your program. What are those, and how do they define and kind of give you the direction that you'd like to take this program?
Yeah, the guiding principles are profound, starting early in my coaching career, but really kind of taking shape along the way. There's 14 of them, which is long, almost like a chapter in a book. And more than principles, they're the code. And what I believe, right, is every decision we make is governed by a principle, but every principle is governed by a belief. And the more clear you are about your beliefs and principles, the more consistent you're going to be. And I tried to identify principles that would help young people live great lives. And so one that maybe our current players are talking about is earned, not given. I just don't expect anyone to give me anything without me qualifying for, adding value to get, demonstrating competency. And in the world today, there's a lot of enticement on the front end without much expectation.
True.
And I don't think that develops young people at a really high level. Family first, last, always is a guiding principle, meaning that I don't know if a young person is ever deciding between competing interests. What I think is going to serve them best is their family first, last, and always, acknowledging that before they even consider anything else in terms of impact. So they're really just anchor points that frame, when crisis comes, a decision or a path to go. And it's a code we live by. It's something that I'm lucky enough to be able to teach them, to add value, to hopefully receive more texts and calls when their eligibility's done. Besides, and I want to make it clear, that's not in place of the success on the field. I think it contributes directly to success. And so this isn't only a program of teaching principles. There has to be results. Otherwise, I'm not meeting expectations.
You say earned, not given, and we heard it from the players yesterday. They have to earn their numbers this year. Would love to know more about that and what went into that decision.
Yeah, so we started at the University of Virginia, and that was a program that was struggling. And I didn't really think the program and the players even valued playing the game, and so they were stripped of anything that was UVA related. And what I learned along the way is each thing they earned, man, did they value it and care for that in a manner like it was, gosh, maybe even more significant than it was. So all of a sudden a T-shirt that had a symbol on it was one of their most prized possessions because they had qualified for it. So anyone in our program, much like the martial arts, you come into the program and you wear white, just like a white belt. You qualify and test for a different color, not just by time. You keep doing that, and eventually you qualify for a jersey. Hard to play in a game without a jersey number. And so anyway, they work through a system of development. It's a developmental program. That means it develops people, but it also develops results. And so we take it to the nth degree.
Yeah, it was very cool to hear Luke and Gabe yesterday speak to it because that's a first for them. And so they really spoke to just how that has changed this team and the way that they're getting ready for this season. Very cool to hear.
I think it does. Number one, I think it helps them get ready for the season. I think it helps them get ready for life, but it also gives them great feedback, because if they want to know where they stand, they just simply pull the stuff out of their locker and what color is it? And they look at the scale and it tells them where they are on the current continuum. And if they want to go higher, they look at the numbers to qualify for the next color and they go for it.
Yeah.
We're going to get to some of your players and talk about who some of those guys that will make an impact on the field, at least that you can project at this point. But we're on a roll here in establishing the things that are important. And I did want to get to this before it kind of got buried. You have a program called Thursday Heroes that you guys have implemented. First of all, if you can explain what that is, but I'd really love to know the why behind it, because it's very powerful visuals that we'll be showing here. What do you do and why do you do it with this Thursday Heroes program?
Gosh, there's so much in college football right now that makes the players feel like they're very important. And mostly that's because of how they play a game. When my wife and I became head coach at BYU, our kids were about the size of some of these kids you see on the screen in the background, and we were like, how do we teach our boys we're benefiting, but what are we giving? And so we started a foundation, Holly and I, the Thursdays Hero Foundation, to really teach our boys what giving back would look like when they were that age. And gosh, little did we know, just by making time at the end of a Thursday practice, the team would then see a glimpse of what was really important and how it would ground them. And gosh, when I left BYU, we had a Thursdays Hero reunion of over 1,500 people, of kids that had been served in their families. Took the program to the University of Virginia with a very similar result, and here's just the glimpses now. And what's interesting is you can't watch it without smiling. Like, no matter how practice went, no matter what, the coach, the family, and usually grandma and grandpa and the moms and dad are just in tears. So here's a break in their routine. From the Cancer Center or from the Ronald McDonald House or from whatever their life looks like. Here's just a break of acknowledgement that someone sees them, appreciates them, and is mindful of how much they're struggling. And who would have guessed that kids coming for a day it would change. And so they have an open invitation to come back, and players, they email and text, and it's just fun.
The impact on those kids and their families obviously is large, and you know, anyone who's a parent or a brother or sister puts themselves in that situation says, man, that would be really cool to be seen, heard, and celebrated like that. What's the impact on your players? Because the dancing, the celebration that they had, kid had a jersey, and I was listening to it, and they said, put it on, put it on. Like, they're as excited as anybody. I'm curious the impact on the locker room on your players.
I would be remiss if I'm not saying that's one of the advantages. I didn't expect that to start.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. But after just a few presentations after practice at the very beginning, my wife and I and our kids, we were watching our team, and we're not so sure they didn't benefit more
100%.
than the hero. And that glimpse into someone else's struggle, someone else's sacrifice, time away from themselves, and basically the happiest people I've met are the ones that are the most outward focused. And so the mental health of our team amidst a season and all this other stuff that's viewed as so important, there's a point each week where they're not acknowledging any of that. They're feeling valued because they get to be the one to give a shirt. And their teammates are celebrating that, and they're hugging the family members after, and they're visiting. And for that moment or moments, they're not just a college football player, right? They're a community member. They're an ally. They're a friend. They're serving. They're connecting. And they're realizing you can do all of that. It doesn't just mean one or the other.
It's awesome. Well, if you'll humor us here, let's talk some football and some of your guys
if we have to,
that have been impacted. Let's just start for no other better reason than he will be assuming one of your leaders. Devin Dampier had a really strong spring. Last year, at the end of the year, was super good. He threw for over 500 yards, 10 total touchdowns accounted for. In what ways will he be a valued member on the football field for your team?
Gosh, whenever you take over a new program or any organization, right, there's disproportionate people of value by the nature of their position.
Sure.
Right? Impact. Quarterback is that, and if you have a quarterback, Kirby Smart said this, when you have a quarterback, you have a chance. Man, did I get lucky in inheriting a really good quarterback that was already in the program. By injury, Devin basically got every repetition this spring. And, man, I love what I see from him. He's a capable runner and thrower and decision maker and leader. And so really excited about him. We've added 2 junior college players and 2 players healthy that have started games for New Mexico before, and Isaiah Chavez and Justin Holiday, besides our 2 junior college players. So we're deep at the quarterback position with a clear leader, which is Devin. But to me, the program will go as the quarterback plays. And you have to have succession planning, especially if his style of play is dynamic. And once he runs, especially if he's not a great slider yet or a great decision maker downfield and some of the hits he takes, you have to have a succession plan. But that position for us, I feel very good about, which means our chance for transition becomes strong.
Well, a player that I know is really excited to get back on the field this year, who I expect will probably be one of your top targets, is Mr. Luke Weissong. We got to talk with him yesterday. Really cool for him, just coming from a family of Lobos. His dad, his uncle, his mom played volleyball, just all the things really special for him. But being able to be back on the field, how excited are you to see him back and know that he's going to be a big part of this offense?
Yeah, really excited for all the reasons you just said. So besides the ability and his chance to perform, when you add history and family ties like that, and he represents the state, all of those things make his performance more compelling, not less. And when you can run with the ball like he does after he catches it, when you catch it the way he can catch it, when you return kicks the way he can do that, and you have New Mexico ties and family history, there becomes a different connection, and quite frankly a different passion that you play with and people support with. And so Luke is right in the middle of all that, which, really lucky to have inherited him too.
In your time, I know your offenses have valued and targeted the tight end. And Trace Bruckler, guy, started 10 games. At the start of the season last year was thought of as one of the top tight ends, and he ended up turning out to be that. How valued will he be in your offense, knowing that at least in the past that's been a focal point they've used?
huge. Trace is one of my favorite players, and just I like his leadership. I like his toughness. I like his productivity. He can block and he can catch, and gosh, he works like crazy, and so capable. And again, I feel like I hit the jackpot with some of these players that were already at New Mexico, and Trace is one of them. We have a deep tight end room as well, and so it won't just be Trace, but he's leading the room, and yeah, he's exactly what I would have hoped for.
This year, and well, the nature of college athletics right now is the transfers, the transfer portal. It's different than probably what you expected when you got into this business many years ago, but I'd be remiss not to mention one of the big transfers that I've heard has made quite a big impact on your program already. Noah Avenger played at San Diego State. He was a preseason All-Mountain West team member in 2022. Now getting him on your team, what have you seen from him so far in the way that he's come in and asserted himself in this group?
It's been fun because he came in with experience, but he's still at a new program. And so while he was leading, he was doing it thoughtfully, intentionally, respectfully, but his work ethic and daily consistency was allowed his voice to be quiet, but to be listened to. And so his play certainly backed that up and backs that up. But again, starting experience, playing experience in the league, playing well, coming in with the demeanor that he had and the work ethic, he's made a huge difference. And at a position, quite frankly, that was one of our biggest needs. And so the value he's already added, really big for our program.
You know an immense amount about this league. He's been in this league. He's seen a lot. And obviously, there are a lot of new faces on this team this year. So being able to rely on a guy like Noah, who, although it may be his first year at New Mexico, actually playing, what does that mean to be able to rely on a guy like him?
Yeah, stability. And so my experience of the league, as well as head coaching career and time, there's a stability factor there where the highs aren't too high, the lows aren't too low, the crises aren't too capital letter. They're just manageable. At corner and in the secondary, it's a valuable skill to have because it's a volatile position. And so to have someone similar, but at the player level doing the same thing, again, it adds stability, and stability adds consistency. And that usually in a league like this that has so much parity, the most consistent teams usually have the best chance. And so that's really going to help.
Yeah.
Comes from a great athletic family. Sister is a great basketball player at San Diego State as well. We'll take a look at your schedule here before we turn you loose, Coach. You guys will open up against Montana State. And I know coaches may or may not have any role in scheduling, but that's a tough opener,
My
Coach.
Gosh.
I mean,
that would have not have been my first pick. It would not have been my first pick. It wouldn't have been on the board.
That's a tough opener.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you got Arizona, and see one of our old friends in Brent Brennan, and you go to Auburn, and then a team that is picked to be one of the top teams in this league, and then a rivalry game. I mean, you're just getting thrown straight to the fire, Coach.
Why build into it? We might as well just go. If we're going to go, we might as well just go. Yeah.
You're doing that. Yep. Reasonable expectations for me. This is a building job that you have inherited, and what are some reasonable expectations as you look at this schedule? What defines success on the football field for you?
I think you can put it in context really easy, but ultimately no one cares about the context. They really don't, right? My expectations for the University of New Mexico, which I share with our team, is that we're postseason eligible every year. We consistently compete for the conference championship, and we win our state championship. And so that expectation, you can say that's not relevant year one. It has to be relevant every year, right? The reality is we have tons of work to do. We have a difficult schedule. We have whatever reasons there is. But those are my expectations. The players know that, and that's what we're going to shoot for.
Well, the context to your season, as we see it, is New Mexico football is in great hands.
Thank you.
It is great having you back in the league, and you helping shape all of us as folks, because your words do resonate, and I mean that sincerely. So welcome back to the league.
Thanks. Fun to be with you guys.
And likewise. Bronco Mendenhall, proven winner now, taking over at the University of New Mexico.
All right, well, we've still got lots more coming your way here today from Circa Resort and Casino at 2024 Mountain West Football Media Days. Coming up next, we will hear from National College Football writer Chris Vanini from The Athletic. We're excited to get his perspective on all things Mountain West football this year, so don't go anywhere. We'll be live coming up right after this on the Mountain West Network.